Welcome to the Newsome MMA betting podcast, partnered with Concussion Pro 1, the world's first dedicated concussion supplement. I'm your host as always, Newsome, and tonight we are breaking down UFC 228 from Dallas, Texas. First of all, though, there is a couple of apologies to make. The first one being how late this podcast is out fight week. I normally try and get it out Monday or Tuesday for you guys, but unfortunately I have been ill this week, and for a couple of days I could barely even talk, which is obviously not great for a podcast. You will still have to bear with throughout. The chances are we'll have to take a couple of sips of water and stuff. I'm still not 100%, but I just wanted to get this out for you guys before fight night. Second of all, I will be doing this podcast solo tonight. Co-host John became a dad last weekend, so congratulations to John and his family first of all. But he's obviously got other commitments right now, which is absolutely understandable. Now, just before we get into the breakdowns, in case anybody has missed it, I'd just like to remind you all that the Premium Bets membership options from Newsome MMA are now available on the Newsome MMA website. You have options of a standard, bronze, silver and gold membership, and these memberships provide cheaper prices per fight card for those who commit to the slightly longer terms, opposed to purchasing my picks individually per week. You can find all of these membership options at newsomemma.co.uk/premium-bets. That's newsomemma.co.uk/premium-bets. So without further ado, let's break UFC 228 down from bottom to top. And in your first fight of the evening in welterweight division, we've got Geoff Neal versus Frank Camacho. Now, I think this is a bit of a sleeper fight, to be honest. I think it could end up in a brawl, which does favour Camacho in my opinion, because he's I think he's a guy that's probably going to have more heart than Geoff Neal if it does come into a brawl. I think they both hit really hard, both guys. But that's if it does enter a brawl. You know, Geoff Neal's going to have to commit to that if Frank Camacho offers it on a plate, which he probably will do. And if it does enter a brawl, it could literally be the first shot sends the other guy down. But I am heading towards Geoff Neal in this fight, just purely because, you know, if it doesn't enter a brawl, I think he's the more technical fighter. He's got crisp boxing. He's also got a bit of a wrestling background as well. And I just feel that with the technical striking over Camacho's sort of brawling style of striking, I really favour the technical striker. I think Frank Camacho is two paths to victory here. One, I've already mentioned, try and get this into a brawl to catch Geoff Neal to put him down. You could absolutely knock Geoff Neal down and knock him out. Geoff Neal has got a good chin, but Frank Camacho hits really hard, and the knockouts on his record speak volume as well. The second path to victory is just to tie Geoff Neal up and, you know, use Frank Camacho's got really good trips. We saw that in the Dober fight. He's also got underrated Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well. So if he can use his judo to get the trips, to use Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and get some top time on top side with Geoff Neal on bottom, then obviously that's a good path to victory for him as well. But that's going to be a task in itself with the second path to victory that I've just mentioned, because Geoff Neal is a very big welterweight. You know, he used to fight at middleweight, so he's sort of the heavier end of welterweight, whereas Frank Camacho used to be a lightweight. He did miss weight against Damian Brown, I think it was. So, you know, he was sort of he wanted to fight lightweight, but you could clearly see it was a tough cut. So he's made the move up to welterweight. So he's sort of on the lower end scale of welterweight, but still not small by any means. So I think actually controlling Geoff Neal in the clinch and getting the trips might be a tough task for him. Again, I think it comes down to Geoff Neal, and if he doesn't engage in that brawl, which I think he might not, I do think that he'll get the win here. I'm not sure whether he knocks Camacho out. You know, Camacho's got slightly better cardio at welterweight, although I'm still not totally convinced it's amazing. But Camacho's got a tough chin, really, really tough chin. He's gonna have to really rain down some solid shots on Camacho's chin if he's gonna knock him out, which, you know, is entirely possible, but I personally don't see it, and I'm going for Geoff Neal to win by unanimous decision. Then in the next fight of the night, we've got Roberto Sanchez versus Jared Brooks. Now, this fight only got made a couple of days ago. It was originally Roberto Sanchez against Ryan Benoit, a fight that I did actually have a bet on as well. It was one of my premium bets. I did have Roberto Sanchez to beat Ryan Benoit, so a little bit upset that Benoit's pulled out, but I'm not sure why he's pulled out. I hope he's okay, and it is what it is. This is the fight game. This is the gambling game. You've got to prepare for these situations. But instead, Jared Brooks has stepped up, and I do favour him in this fight. It is on short notice, I get that. But one thing people may or may not know, I'm not sure, is Jared Brooks has been side by side with Cody Stamann in his fight camp during the build up to this fight. So, Jared Brooks has sort of gone through a camp himself. Yes, it's not tailored to a certain opponent, but, he's been with Cody Stamann and putting him through his paces. So, he's been getting the time in the gym also. It's not as if he's coming off the couch and, got to fight in a couple of days' notice. The thing is here, though, I think the line's really off. Jared Brooks is around the minus 350 mark. He's just ridiculous, in my opinion. So I do see some value on Roberto Sanchez, but Jared Brooks, what you're going to get with him. He's going to come forward with pace, pressure. He's going to throw shots to try and close distance, to get his arms around his opponent and ultimately pick them up and dump them on the back. What he's got to be careful, though, of in this fight is Roberto Sanchez is no slouch on the mat whatsoever. He's got a really, really good grappling game, a really good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game. So Jared Brooks he's got to be careful closing the distance. He's got to be careful tying up with Sanchez, because if Sanchez gets some sort of reversal whilst Brooks is tied up before he can get the hands clasped together for the double leg or the single leg, Sanchez could easily trip him or reverse and shoot in on Brooks and get Brooks down, where the mat is Roberto Sanchez's world, and I think Brooks has got to respect that a little bit. I think one error from Brooks on the mat, I think that could be it for the fight. It's Roberto Sanchez is genuinely dangerous, but ultimately I feel that in some fights in mixed martial arts, you see the wrestler really nullifying the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu of his opponent, and I feel this is one of those types of fights. I think that Jared Brooks, if he does make a mistake, it can be over, but it's going to have to be a glaring mistake. And although the dude knocked himself out in his last fight, I don't think we see another absolutely glaring mistake here. So I've got Jared Brooks to pick up a decision win and beat Roberto Sanchez on the scorecards. Then in the next fight, we've got Irene Aldana versus Lucie Pudilova. And again, this is another fight. I actually really enjoyed taping this as well. Both girls have got a lot of heart. They're both big for the division. They both will go through, have fought through adversity and will go through anything to try and get the win. And I think it's going to be a really, really good scrap, this. It's a scrap that I favour Aldana in, though. And the reason being, I just feel that Lucie Pudilova doesn't look to get fights to the mat, so I feel that unless that she's got something up her sleeve that she's going to pull out and surprise people with and come out with a takedown game plan, or a game plan just to get it down to the mat. I just don't see that happening, though, and I think in the stand-up department, Irene Aldana has just got the much better boxing. The one thing, though, that you will have to be concerned about is Lucie Pudilova pressurising. I think, although Aldana will meet her in the middle if she starts coming forward, I think if anybody's going to end up retreating slightly, it is going to be Aldana. Lucie Pudilova will come forward. She'll eat shots if she has to get her pressure game going. But ultimately, I think that if the fight does stay on the feet over 3 rounds, I think the volume's going to be slightly on Aldana. I think the damage might be slightly on Aldana. But I do think the fight's going to be close. Ultimately, I just see Aldana pulling away on the scorecards very slightly. Could potentially be a split decision as well, who knows. But I think that if the fight's going to go the way I think it's going to go, I don't see 2 judges giving it to Pudilova. I think it might be a situation where one does, the other 2 favour the volume. But who knows if Pudilova does really pressurise for most of the fight. The judges, we've seen in the past, judges really like the aggressor and really like the fighter going forward. So that's what makes me think it could be close. But ultimately, I've got Aldana to win this fight by decision. Then in the next fight, we've got Jim Miller against Alex White. Now, originally when this fight first got announced, I was all ready to really fade Jim Miller in this fight, but after watching tape, it's completely changed my mind, and I'm actually going for the underdog in here, which might surprise a few people because I've seen some big bets on Alex White across MMA Twitter, and I get it. Alex White hits hard, he's a good striker, he's crisp, he's got a good chin himself, he'll keep coming forward, he'll eat shots no problem, but the Achilles heel of Alex White's game is being taken down, and we've seen it in a lot of the fights we've lost. We saw it in his last fight against James Krause. He was actually doing really well against James Krause on the feet, as a lot of people expected. He also had Krause hurt a couple of times in the first round, and even more so in the last round as well. It got to a point where Krause was really desperate to get the fight to the mat at the end, towards the end of that final round in their fight, and in the Tony Martin fight as well. He again is a similar issue. He was having success striking, but Tony Martin ultimately closed the distance, got a hold of him, clinched, and was dragging him to the mat to get the fight where he wanted to be. And I feel that a lot of people are putting a lot of stock into Dan Hooker's knockout of Jim Miller, thinking that maybe his chin's done, maybe it's gone. And honestly, I thought exactly the same before I started digging into to study the fight and digging into tape. And I don't believe that Jim Miller's chin has gone just yet. Hooker had to land quite a few nasty shots on Jim Miller to start hurting him, and ultimately get the knockdown to finish him, which was a brutal knee, which has put out a few other fighters in the UFC as well. So, it's not as if Hooker went in there and got him out easily. But let's say, for argument's sake, he did go in there and get him out easily. Could you really blame Jim Miller for that? Hooker's legit as fuck. He's proven it time and time again. He's looking an absolute beast at lightweight. So, if it was easy for Hooker, it's still how much stock do you put into that? So, I just don't think Jim Miller's done yet. He didn't have the greatest performance against Trinaldo, but Trinaldo, I think that fight was in Brazil as well. He's an absolute beast in his own country. He's a great pressure fighter, as it is anyway. I think we're going to see a very similar fight here to what we saw of Jim Miller against Thiago Alves, because Thiago Alves was having some success stood up, and what Jim Miller just kept doing was just level changing, getting the double leg takedown and getting the fight to the mat, and spending most of the 3 rounds on top in top side positions. So I feel that same game plan can be applied to Alex White, and I don't think Alex White's got the greatest takedown defense. It's not the worst either, but what I'm basically saying is he can be taken down, and I feel that once Jim Miller feels the power of Alex White, it's just going to be, he's a veteran of the sport, Jim Miller. That's just going to switch on in the fight, and I think he's just going to look to level change, get the double leg, or get the fight to the mat however he needs to get it to. But ultimately, I think he can get the fight to the mat, and I think he'll do that for each round. And I'm not sure if Alex White will be able to stand back up. And whilst the fight is on the mat, Jim Miller's got every chance of submitting him as well. I'm not going down that route for the pick. I think that Alex White might be able to do enough to prevent any sort of submission attempts or definite submission finishes. But I think Jim Miller's gonna end up getting the nod on the scorecards here. So I'm going for Jim Miller to defeat Alex White by unanimous decision. Then in the next fight, we've got Diego Sanchez against Craig White. And reluctantly, straight off the bat, I'm going with Craig White here. I see a lot of people going for Diego Sanchez, picking Diego Sanchez. I get it. I totally understand it, because from a skill set point of view, Diego Sanchez is head and shoulders above Craig White in regards to ability, in regards to experience, level of competition. Everything stacks up on Diego Sanchez's side, but for me, it's that chin, and I just feel that every fight since Diego Sanchez got brutally knocked out by Ali Akinta, and a lot of people predicted that in that fight that his chin was going then. I was a bit unsure. I think I actually picked Diego Sanchez to win that fight. because I didn't believe that his chin was totally done yet. But you know, credit to the people that saw that happen sort of before that fight. Ali Akinta definitively made that noticeable. Then when Matt Brown came in, Matt Brown, yeah, he hit him with a solid elbow, but you know, it was the way he finished him. It was quite brutal, the knockout. So I just think each fight now, his chin's just getting progressively worse, and it's almost to the point now that any sort of MMA fighter at the level of UFC that can hit with any sort of power might be able to knock him out. And I just feel that over 3 rounds, does Craig White catch him with a hard shot? I think he does, and I'm just not confident that Diego Sanchez's chin can hold up. If I was Diego Sanchez in this fight, I'd be looking, again, just as I mentioned with Jim Miller and Alex White, I'd be looking to try and get that fight to the mat. But then on bottom, Craig White's, you know, he's got a decent ground game, so I'm just unsure where Diego Sanchez is safest in this fight. And ultimately, I think Diego Sanchez is going to come out. He's not going to give a shit about going to the ground. He's going to try and put on a great fight for the fans, as he's done throughout his entire career. And I just think he's going to get caught in a brawl. I think it's going to be maybe 1 or 2 shots, and which will either stumble him back, drop him, or potentially knock him out. Like I say, that chin's just really hard to trust right now. So I'm actually going to go for Craig White to win this fight via TKO. Then in the next fight, we've got Charles Byrd versus Darren Stewart. Now, this is a really interesting fight, and again, I think it's a close fight that's not reflected by the betting lines at all. Charles Byrd is, last time I looked, I think he was like a -200, -210 favourite. But I think Darren Stewart's really dangerous anywhere the fight goes, unless he's on his back, which is obviously a huge issue for Darren Stewart in this fight, considering Charles Byrd has got some wrestling background. He's been training with Fortis MMA with the likes of Alhassan and Geoff, Neal, both guys on this card as well. So he's had a decent camp behind him. And I think this is where Darren Stewart will probably lose the fight, because I think Charles Byrd will eventually get that takedown. And once he's on the mat, I think he'll be able to work a position for a submission and potentially get the back of Darren Stewart and choke him out via rear naked choke. But until that first takedown happens, Darren Stewart is going to be dangerous. He hits hard as fuck. He'll come out with pressure. He'll throw bombs. We saw that in his last fight with Eric Spicer. Eric Spicer tried to get him down to the mat, tried to play that game with him. Darren Stewart was having none of it, and he ended up knocking him out. So a similar thing could definitely happen in this fight. Again, as I've mentioned with Diego Sanchez, as I've mentioned with Jim Miller in the last 2 breakdowns of this fight card, if I was Charles Byrd, I would be trying to look for the takedown pretty much straight away, because you're nullifying Darren Stewart's biggest threat in the striking. Don't let yourself get taken down either. You know, Darren Stewart could easily set up some strikes and shoot in for a power double leg takedown himself. You know, he's got it in his locker. We've seen it before. So I'd be very careful in playing the line on this. You know, there could be a good prop bet for people out there, who knows. But I am ultimately going to go with Charles Byrd. I just think he does get the takedown at some point in this fight before a potential bomb blitz comes in from Darren Stewart. And I think once he's on the ground, he can work a position really nicely. We saw that in his UFC debut against John Phillips back at UFC Liverpool, I believe it was. You know, he was patient on the mat. He eventually worked to get that finish on John Phillips. So yeah, I've got Charles Byrd to win this fight via submission. And in the next fight of the night, we've got Jimmie Rivera versus John Dodson. And this fight, again, is another sleeper fight. It's got all the potential to be a barn burner for sure. We've got Jimmie Rivera coming off the knockout loss to Marlon Moraes, and we've got John Dodson coming off his split decision win versus Pedro Munoz. Now, I think that in this fight, it definitely favours Jimmie Rivera. I think the betting lines are pretty much accurate as well in reflection to that. We've got Jimmie Rivera at about -150 now, John Dodson at sort of +125, +130. A few years ago, this might have been a totally different fight. John Dodson, I think he's on the decline. We see him slowing down slightly. He's still a quick fighter, he has to be, but I think him slowing down slightly with age and fight experience at this sort of weight class is going to really hurt him, because he's relied on that speed to win him a lot of fights in the past. Being able to just be much quicker than his opponent and be in and out, landing volume before his opponents even had a chance to blink, was what he was really good at and what he was best at, and what really made him a beast. But over the years, like I say, we have started to now see him slowing down a little bit. He tends to not throw too many combinations as well, and just hunt that big left hand to to look to really hurt his opponent. Jimmie Rivera, on the other hand, I think you can't really put too much stock into that loss from Marlon Moraes. Moraes is a beast. He'll be he'll beat a lot of fighters in this division. And it was one of those kicks where he just caught him clean, and I think if he hits most other fighters in the division with that same head kick, it puts them out as well. However, having said that, Rivera has got a little bit of a suspect chin. I don't think it's anything too worrying right now, although it could be later on in his career. But it is something that we have to take into consideration. We've seen him rocked and dropped in a couple of fights, so. Yeah, it's something to think about for sure. I don't think it's too much of a worry in this spot, though. Dodson does seem to have lost a little bit of his power, a little bit of his volume, and a little bit of his speed. So I think Rivera might be able to get away with it in this fight. In fact, I think he will get away with it in this fight. Jimmie Rivera mixing kicks and combinations really well. When his fighter, when he engages in the pocket with his fighter, he'll hit the combinations, either push the fighter, which will either make his opponent retreat, or he'll hit the combination and retreat himself, depending on the situation. I think that works perfectly with Dodson, because when Dodson comes in to strike, I think he'll be able to hit him with a 2, 3, 4 shot combination before Dodson's managed to come in, do his work, and come back out. I think in regards to the aggression, I think it'll be Rivera pressing. In fact, I'm pretty confident it'll be Rivera pressing and Dodson fighting on the back foot. Rivera tends to press most of his fights, whereas Dodson tends to fight on the back foot recently as well. So that seems to match up quite well from the style perspective in this fight. I just think that with Rivera pressing, with Rivera landing volume and landing combinations, I think in the judges' eyes, because that's where I see this fight going, by the way, I don't see it finishing this fight. I just think in the judges' eyes, when they see slightly additional volume from Rivera, they'll see Rivera pressing most of the fight. I just think that will look better in the judges' eyes for Rivera than what it will for Dodson. Also, if the fight does come quite close, and if Rivera does feel the fight is quite close, he's got a good reactive takedown. He doesn't go out and hunt for the wrestler and hunt for the takedown game, but it's more opportunistic. And I think if the opportunity is there, or I feel that Rivera is quite a smart fighter as well. So inside the cage, he will adapt, and I feel that if he thinks it's quite close, he might shoot in for a takedown. I don't think he'll spend a lot of time grappling and in top position before Dodson gets back up. But again, if it goes to judges' scorecards, if the judges are seeing volume, if they're seeing aggression, if they're seeing the odd takedown, these are all round winning and fight winning scenarios. And I just feel that Rivera is going to look a lot better in front of the judges than what Dodson will. So then you look at the going to the judges' scorecards, because you've got to take that into consideration. Dodson's 9-9 on the judges' scorecards. Then you've got Jimmie Rivera that's 15-1. So, Rivera does always tend to look quite good in front of the judges. So, for this fight, I've got Jimmie Rivera to win by unanimous decision. In the next fight of the night, we've got Aljamain Sterling versus Cody Stamann, another fight I'm really looking forward to. I'm seeing a lot of action on Cody Stamann, and I get it. The guy's looked impressive. He's got a 17-1 record. He's got good takedowns. Looking to get the fight to the mat and to spend some time in top side on his opponent. He's also got a decent boxing game as well. But ultimately, I'm leaning Aljamain Sterling. And, I was a little unfair on Sterling in his last fight. And, when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll hold my hands up. I'll admit it. I've said it time and time again. I really countered Sterling out quite heavily against Brett Johns, and he came out and put on an absolute clinic. And, like I say, I was wrong. Sterling, I think Sterling is a great fighter. I think he's still got a lot of potential. He's got a good team behind him with Sarah Longo, who I believe are the best. They're like good cop, bad cop in the corner of Aljamain Sterling. You've got Longo that's really calm and composed, and you've got Sarah that's really loud and aggressive, and I love it. And I think it's great for Aljamain Sterling to have those two in his corner. But ultimately and stylistically, I feel that Sterling's got every tool in this fight to beat Cody Stamann and to give Stamann that first UFC loss. I think that first of all, Sterling's got two paths to victory. I think he can either stay on the outside, keep Stamann away. He's got a huge reach advantage in his arms and his legs as well. 7-inch reach advantage in the arms, so he could definitely use his kicking game to keep himself on the outside, to keep Stamann trying to close the distance and come in, ultimately frustrate him. Or he could close the distance with Stamann, get the double unders, which he showed that he does nicely against Brett Johns. His arms will be able to wrap around the body of Stamann really easily. Like I've said, he's got a huge reach advantage, and uses D3 wrestling to get the fight to the mat. And that's something I think a lot of people are overlooking here. And, again, I did myself before I dove into the research of this fight. Like, I thought Stamann was the better wrestler, he had better wrestling credentials, but he doesn't. He's just a really good, he's got really good MMA wrestling, he's got really good takedowns. But Aljamain Sterling is the one with the wrestling credentials and the wrestling background behind him, and he uses it. He definitely uses it when he needs to. So I think Sterling's got a couple of path to victories here. I think for Stamann to win this fight, he has to get into boxing range, and he has to maintain and stay in boxing range, which he will definitely piece Sterling up if he gets into that range. But I feel that for a start, Sarah, Longo and Sterling will all know this information. If I've seen it and others have seen it, they're going to definitely know it. I don't think they're going to allow Stamann to stay in boxing range at all. And I think that if he tries to get into boxing range, I think Sterling, again, he'll either fight long, retreat and try and exit on an angle, or he'll just push forward like we saw against Brett Johns and like I've already mentioned, get the double unders, tie Stamann up, push him against the cage, where I think that Sterling's definitely going to have a strength advantage over Stamann. Then the other worry for Stamann is, does he get the takedowns? He has got a good takedown game, but then when you analyse Stamann's takedowns on his previous opponents, he tends to be a lot more successful with more static opponents. He got a couple of takedowns from Duquesnoy as he was switching stances. So just as his legs were parallel, Stamann was shooting in for the double legs, which made his life so much easier, because it's easier to get that double leg takedown when the legs are parallel. Like I say, the Duquesnoy was static too. At those points where he was shooting in, but this is where Sterling's different, because Sterling's not a static fighter. Sterling is constantly bouncing about. He's got a wide stance, so I just feel that it's going to be hard for Stamann to really gauge that entry good enough to take another good wrestler down. But if he does, I feel that Aljo will just stand straight back up anyway. He's got a really good get-up game. He's got really good grappling, which is another factor when you're on the floor. Aljo has learned pretty much everything in regards to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from Matt Serra, which is one of the best dudes you could learn Jiu-Jitsu from. I just feel that there's a grappling advantage for Sterling. If Stamann's going to win this fight, he's got to either consistently dump Aljo down. I think Aljo will get straight back up, so he's got to keep on dumping him down time and time again for at least 2 rounds, or he's got to stay in boxing range for at least 2 rounds. And I just feel that with that being said, I don't think Stamann can maintain that in this fight against Aljamain Sterling, and this is why I said I really favour Sterling in this fight. So I've got Sterling to win the fight. I definitely don't think there's a finish, and I think Sterling will get a unanimous decision victory. In the next fight of the night, we've got Carla Esparza against Tatiana Suarez. This is a huge mismatch. The line reflects it. We've got 2 wrestlers in here. I think that Tatiana Suarez is by far the more aggressive, stronger, better wrestler, and I think it'll show in this fight. In regards to a technical breakdown, I can't offer too much of that in this fight, just purely because it is going to come down to who can get the takedowns, who can get the top control, who can keep their opponent pinned on bottom. And I just feel that Tatiana Suarez ticks all those boxes. I'm not sure too much of a path to victory for Carla Esparza. We can always talk about the puncher's chance, but in this women's division, that's significantly less as well. Of course, any pro fighter could catch any opponent and put them down. I just see it really unlikely. I don't see Carla Esparza being able to get Suarez on her back either. I think Suarez will be too strong and be too dominant and be the one that's pressing forward and being the aggressor. So that then reduces that path to victory for Esparza. I just think she's going to be in for a long night. I don't think we see Suarez submit her, and if we do, it might be sort of late in the fight, third round, after Suarez has just been mentally and physically drained from the takedowns. But I give Esparza credit. I think that she will last the 15 minutes, and I just think Suarez will conclude on the judges' scorecards with, a unanimous decision victory, maybe a 10-8 round or two in there as well. So I've got Tatiana Suarez to win at the fight by decision. And then the next fight of the night, we've got what I think is potentially going to be the fight of the night. We've got Abdul Razak Alhassan against Niko Price. Now, this is a fight that, I was really confident to start with, and then after I watched tape, I was like, okay, shit, maybe I was a little overconfident. And it's all down to Alhassan. That's who I was really, really confident in. I think that he's a great fighter. He's got a really good striking game. He's got huge power in his shots as well. He's explosive. He's got a judo background, so he ticks a lot of boxes for a fighter to be, to be really great, and a fighter that you can really trust inside the cage. But a couple of things worry me about Alhassan. The first one definitely is the gas tank of Alhassan. I don't think he's got the best gas tank, but that's purely down to him just letting himself go inside the cage and throwing punches in bunches and, not managing his cardio whatsoever and managing the pace of the fight. And ultimately that does affect him. We saw in the first fight that he had with Sabah Hamasi that, again, he just let himself go. He hunted the knockout. He didn't get the knockout, and then he started to slow down. Hamasi was landing takedowns. Then at that point, you were really looking at Alhassan, worrying for the dude, thinking, how is he going to fight 3 rounds if he needs to? Eventually, he got the controversial stoppage, a stoppage that I don't agree with, but it happened. And then they reran it back, and obviously Alhassan put Hamasi away with the same brutal uppercut that he stopped Charlie Ward with in his UFC debut. So that finished that. Now, looking on to the side of Niko Price. Niko Price is, he is durable. He's a gamer. He comes to fight. He's a fun fighter as well. Lately, he's started mixing in takedowns into his game as well. We saw that in the Randy Brown fight. He looked for a takedown on a couple of occasions. I think that ultimately that's going to be his path to victory in this fight. I think that he can win in two. Niko Price can win this fight in 2 ways. He can instantly start looking for a takedown straight off the bat, adopt a takedown heavy game plan, which I think would be smart, or he could play a risky game and hope that Alhassan unloads early in the fight, weathers that storm, and then Alhassan tires, which then Price will have an option of the takedown heavy game plan, or he could probably strike with a tired Alhassan, not worrying too much about getting knocked out or getting outpointed or out-volumed. Obviously, like I've said, the second option, path to victory for Price, would be very risky. Ultimately, though, I think that one thing that Price will accept and can accept is entry to a brawl. So I think if Alhassan offers that brawl, Price might engage, and ultimately I think that's what's going to happen. I think that Alhassan's going to come out strong. He's going to come out hard, just like he does, or he's shown in his previous fights. I think he's going to start brawling with Price rather than Price being smart, level changing and trying for the takedown. I think the moment's just gonna overcome Price. I think he's going to accept the brawl. I think he's going to start trading punches with Alhassan, which is going to leave a hole and a home for that big right uppercut that Alhassan lands on his opponents. And I think if he lands this on Niko Price, he's going to sleep. What I'd like to see from Alhassan is I'd like to see Alhassan pace himself. I think he's got a good technical game. I think he can find punches. I think he can land volume. I think he can be the cleaner striker without the over aggression with him not having any consideration for the pace that he's fighting at. So that's what I'd like to see from Alhassan. Ultimately, I don't think we see that from him either. I feel that both fighters are going to end up looking back at this fight and thinking, shit, I had really bad fight IQ in that fight, which is great for entertainment and for fans watching. But, that's something that I think both guys will need to work on. So, yeah, ultimately, I think both guys are going to abandon good potential game plans for themselves, enter into a brawl, and I just favour Alhassan in that sort of fight. I could be wrong, and if Price is smart, I think Price will win. I think if Alhassan is smart, I think Alhassan will win the fight. I think if they're both smart in this fight, it could be anyone's game. But ultimately, I'm going for the entertaining fight. I think it'll be fight of the night, and I think Alhassan beats Niko Price via knockout. In the next fight of the night, we've got Jessica Andrade against Karolina Kowalkiewicz. And again, I think it's another slight mismatch. I think Kowalkiewicz, she could potentially outpoint Andrade. I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility, but to outpoint Andrade in this fight, she's got to really, really be on the back foot and really be evasive, use angles extremely well. I just think it's too much to ask for Kowalkiewicz to do this in this fight. I think the pressure game of Andrade and the cutting off of angles, the tying up, the takedowns, I just think everything when Andrade puts it together, which she does do in pretty much every fight she fights in, the only one that we've seen and not being able to put it together completely as of late was the title fight against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. So I think that Andrade will put it together again in this fight. I think that she might start off a little bit slow, like she did against Tecia Torres, but eventually she'll come into her own. She'll get a rhythm. She'll be closing the distance. She'll be cutting off angles. She'll be tying up with Kowalkiewicz. She'll be picking her up, dumping her on her back. She'll be landing strikes on the mat, potentially offering a submission threat as well. And I don't think she gets her out of there. Similar to what I said with Esparza and Suarez, I'll give Kowalkiewicz a dues. I think she'll be able to withstand the pressure, because I think the real pressure on bottom with Andrade on top will be rounds 2 and 3, and I think that'll be sort of enough to see her through to a decision rather than a stoppage. But yeah, I've got Jessica Andrade to win this fight quite comfortably on the judges' scorecards. Then in the next fight of the night, we've got Zabit Magomedsharipov versus Brandon Davis. Now, this fight's supposed to have been Magomedsharipov versus Yair Rodriguez, a fight that I was super stoked for, that I really wanted to see. I think it had a really good clash of styles. Yair Rodriguez pulled out for some undisclosed injury. We still don't know, what pulled him out of that fight. And in his replacement, in steps Brandon Davis. And I just think it's another huge mismatch. I'm not sure what Brandon Davis is going to be able to do in this fight that's going to be able to trouble Zabit too much. The puncher's chance, again, is always there. It's always likely. If he catches him with a strong shot, could it knock Zabit out? I think in MMA and, with the gloves that they use, I think it's definitely possible. But ultimately, I just think Zabit's going to have too much for Brandon Davis. Brandon Davis has also taken a loss to the guy that Zabit just fought on short notice in his previous fight and beat quite comfortably, I think, with a broken hand as well. So, although MMA math doesn't always work out and you can't judge a fight by that, it's just really hard to see Brandon Davis winning this fight, and it's really hard to give a good technical analysis of it as well, because I think Zabit he's got so many ways to win. He could keep at distance if he wanted to and let Brandon Davis press and just hit him on the counter, use angles and just be evasive, or he could be really aggressive, throw a lot of the a lot of spinning kicks and just be elusive inside the cage, really keep Brandon Davis thinking. Or he could pressurise with a takedown heavy game, score takedowns in the fight, have some top control against Brandon Davis and get him out via submission. There's just so many ways Zabit can win a fight, especially against lower level competition. Now, I don't mean any disrespect to Brandon Davis when I say that. You know, he's in the UFC, he's at the top of, you know, he couldn't be at a better promotion for an MMA fighter, but Zabit, pretty much everybody that fights Zabit is going to be lower level competition to him because he's just that good. And I don't know how this fight pans out. You know, it all depends how Zabit wants the fight to pan out. Does he stand up with Davis like he did against Botniak in his last fight on short notice, or does he look for the takedown like he did against Shaman Marias and submit him on the mat? Who knows? You know, I've got to give a pick for you guys, so I'm gonna go with Zabit looking to get the fight to the mat and potentially submit Brandon Davis. And in the next fight of the night, the co-main event of the evening, we've got Niko Montano against Valentina Shevchenko, and again, it's going to be really tough to give you guys a good technical breakdown of this fight because, again, it's another ridiculous mismatch and one that people have said that shouldn't even be sanctioned because it's that much of a mismatch. And yeah, I'm gonna go with the obvious choice, and I think Valentina Shevchenko is just gonna put a beating on Niko Montano. You look at Niko Montano's last fight against Roxanne Modafferi when she won the title. You know, she was getting hurt by Roxanne Modafferi, and again, I don't mean any disrespect, but when, you know, Valentina Shevchenko is just a completely different animal. If you're getting hurt by Roxanne Modafferi, then you're definitely going to get hurt by Valentina Shevchenko. I personally don't see the fight going any longer than like maybe 2.5, 3 rounds. I don't think we see a third round in this fight. I think the fight will end in the first 2 rounds. And yeah, again, similar to Zabit, I don't know how Shevchenko does it. You know, she's got a choice. She can either use a Muay Thai, crisp Muay Thai game and outstrike Montano, hurt her, put her down and put her away, or she can just level change from the get-go, spend some time topside, ground and pound her, or then even submit her from the mat. So I'm not sure which one she looks to first. She, again, in a last fight against Cachoeira, she hurt. I think she rocked her a little bit on the feet and then just went straight to a takedown heavy game. So I think that she's a smart fighter. She saw that was a path to victory in that fight, an easier path to victory. I think that she might adopt the same thing in the same game plan in this fight and just think, rock her on the feet, get her thinking, and then shoot for a takedown and work her on bottom. Whether she finishes by ground and pound or submission, I'm not sure. I think that all depends on what Montano does. I think if she gives her back with the strikes becoming a little bit too much, Shevchenko will submit her. Ultimately, the referee will stop it with strikes. I'm going with the latter. The Cachoeira fight should have been stopped with strikes, but it wasn't. And ultimately, I think Valentina Shevchenko is gonna finish the fight. I think the fight is going to be stopped via strikes this time, and she's going to become the new women's flyweight champion. And in the main event of the evening, we've got a huge fight at welterweight. We've got champion Tyrone Woodley taking on Darren the Gorilla Till. Now, this is my free bet of the card, so I've got the money on Darren Till. It's 3 units at plus 100. And yeah, there's been a lot of split opinions on this fight. There's a lot of people on Woodley. There's a lot of people on Darren Till. I sort of get both sides. The reason why, the main reason why I don't favour Tyrone Woodley in this fight is because I think his biggest path to victory is a path to victory that he won't use, or if he tries to use, will end up hurting him. And I'll explain what I mean. So I think the biggest gap in skill in this fight is in the wrestling department. Woodley's a D1 wrestler, so his biggest path to victory for me is to have a takedown heavy game plan. Go in on Darren Till, take him down, put him on his back, spend time in top control, land ground and pound, be dangerous, and really send Till into deep waters on the mat. But I've not seen any evidence of Tyrone Woodley being able to do that in X amount of years. It's been a long time since Tyron Woodley has ever come out and gone all D1 on his opponent and, you know, been relentless with takedowns, which, like I say, I think that's what he needs to do against Darren Till in order to beat him. He could obviously land that big bomb on Darren Till's chin. That's absolutely a path to victory for him, but it's going to be a little harder to land it on Darren Till than it would have been on previous opponents, just purely because Darren Till's got good striking defence. He fights tall, he fights long. And I just think it's going to be hard for Woodley to really wind that shot up. He's going to have to do it. He'd have to mix a lot of feints in. He'd have to set it up with other strikes such as jabs, maybe leg kicks and things like that. And I just don't think everything that I'm describing to you now, those sort of combinations, the setups and mixing the setups in with the feints and the wrestling heavy game plan. This is stuff that we don't see from Tyron Woodley. You just can't make up narratives in MMA and assume that a fighter's going to do that when you've seen no evidence of him doing it in previous fights. If he does and he goes out there and does everything that I've just said that I've not seen him do in years, then he's going to beat Darren Till. But I just don't think he's going to. I don't think he's going to look like a different fighter right now. He's not in his prime anymore. I'm not saying he's declining either, but what I'm saying is I don't think you're going to see those improvements in his game at 36 for a guy that's been around the game for absolutely years. He's a veteran. Now, what Tyron Woodley's been doing in previous fights as of late is he's been happy moving backwards, backing himself up, throwing counter punches, and ultimately putting his back against the cage. Now, against Darren Till, I think that's going to be a nightmare thing for Tyron Woodley, and I'm not sure if he can get out of that habit of backing himself up in this fight, and if he doesn't, it's going to be a long night for him, because what Darren Till does really well is Darren Till presses forward, he moves forward, landing shots and just really walking his opponent down, and his shot selection's great, his distance management is great when he's doing that as well. So although he's walking his opponent down and pressurising, he knows when to back up a step or two before moving back in. I just think that if Tyron Woodley moves backwards in this fight, it's going to give Till all the weapons that he needs in order to beat Tyron Woodley and become the new welterweight champion. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think that Woodley will have his moments in this fight moving backwards. You know, he's a champion for a reason. He's still a great fighter, and I think he will land some volume on Darren Till. You know what? I think he'll land a takedown or two on Darren Till, but that's the other thing in regards to the takedown game. If Woodley tries to take Darren Till down consistently for 2, 3, 4 rounds, Woodley's gas tank suspect. You know, I'm not saying it's bad, but he doesn't fight at a huge pace, and it almost makes me believe that Woodley knows himself that he has to pace himself and take rounds off and really manages his cardio inside the cage every time, especially in 5-round fights, purely because he knows that his cardio would suffer if he didn't do so. Which again, he's smart. You know, he's been able to do that, and he's gotten away with it against Wonderboy and Meyer. And you know, I just think that he can't press heavily with wrestling, but I do think he will score a takedown, maybe 2 tops throughout this fight. But I think Till shown against Cerrone, when Cerrone got him down, he can pop straight back up. Now there's a difference between wrestling and grappling. Cerrone's a much better grappler than Tyron Woodley, so if anyone's more likely to keep his opponent down or to keep Darren Till down out of Woodley and Cerrone, I'd put my money on Cerrone, like I say, because he's a better grappler. His jiu-jitsu's better, so I think that if Darren Till stood up quite easily against Cerrone, he'll be able to stand up relatively easily against Tyron Woodley as well. And then if Woodley wants a takedown again, he's going to have to work hard for another takedown. It expends more energy, more out the gas tank, getting him down, and further down the line, further into the fight that it goes. You know, that's not gonna help Tyron Woodley at all, especially if he's still backing up to the cage. And ultimately, these are all things that stylistically I favour Darren Till for. Then you look at physicality, so you look at how much bigger Darren Till is than Tyron Woodley. Yeah, it looks like Darren Till's having a little bit of a tough cut, but of course he's going to have a tough cut. He cuts a lot of weight. The difference between the cut this time and last time is Darren Till hasn't left it till till as late to cut this time. He's cut weight gradually, which means that his body isn't going to feel the harsh effect than what it must have felt at UFC Liverpool. Not only did he leave the cutting weight till a little bit later at UFC Liverpool, after he missed weight, he had to re-weigh in the next day at a certain time. At a certain time and at a certain weight. So he couldn't rehydrate properly as well. So I can't imagine how bad Darren Till must have felt inside that cage at UFC Liverpool, and he still came out with a win. Debatably, some people say he did, some people say he didn't. But ultimately he got that win over 5 rounds against Wonderboy. So, he did that throughout what I think would have been a lot of adversity for Darren Till physically. But this time, like I say, he's managed it a lot better. So I'd imagine his cardio and his cardio to be a little better, his pace to be a little faster. I think if he's having it his own way anyway and moving forward, I'm not worried about his cardio at all. So, like I say, he's going to be huge inside there compared to Tyron Woodley. And then you look at the mental side of the game as well. Darren Till's young, he's hungry, he's confident. It's all traits that we saw from Conor McGregor during his rise in the UFC. And a lot of people say that you can be the greatest fighter in the world, but if your head's not there mentally, then you're never gonna succeed to a great extent. And that's completely the flip side for Darren Till. He believes that he believes that he's going to be the champion. He believes that he's going to beat Tyron Woodley. He believes that he's going to knock him out. Now, I personally don't think the knockout happens, and a lot of people might either disagree or call me really negative for saying this, but I think the fight's actually going to be quite boring. I think it's going to be a little bit of a chess match, similar to what we saw with all the Wonderboy fights. So Till against Wonderboy and Woodley against Wonderboy twice. I just feel that it's going to be one of those slow types of fights where it's going to be the aggressor and volume, similar to what I mentioned with the Jimmie Rivera fight earlier on. Obviously minus the opportunistic takedowns, but I just feel that when the judges are looking at this fight over 5 rounds, who's been the aggressor for the majority of the fight, who's landed the slightly more volume. I think in this fight, though, it's going to be more apparent than what it was with the Woodley and Wonderboy fights of who's won the fight. I think it'll be close. It could be one that Till takes 3 rounds to 2. He's dropped 2 rounds over the 5. But ultimately, I think it's going to be a unanimous decision. I don't think it's going to be that close it goes to a split. So, like I say, I think that Darren Till has got all the tools to win in this fight. I think that unless we see something completely different from Woodley that we haven't seen in absolute years, it's actually Darren Till's fight to lose. So, yeah, I've got Darren Till to become the new welterweight champion at plus 100 with 3 units on him. And that's all she wrote for the breakdowns, guys. Don't forget to check out the premium bets from Newsome MMA and the membership options available too. And never hesitate to contact me if you have any questions or inquiries either. Now, for the extremely quick Newsome MMA 2-minute plug. First of all, I'd like to talk about Concussion Pro 1, who are partnering Newsome MMA. Concussion Pro 1 is the world's first dedicated concussion supplement supporting brain health and performance. This product is honestly groundbreaking, and there isn't another supplement on the market like it. The unique formula that makes up Concussion Pro 1 has been developed and created by some of the world's most decorated sports scientists to help protect and support the brain and its performance. Approved by the UK Mixed Martial Arts Federation, Concussion Pro 1 provides some amazing support to the brain. It increases mental performance, faster recovery from injury, reduced inflammation post-impact, improved neural protection and much more. With professional athletes such as Alexander Rakic, Mark Diakese and Scott Askham using Concussion Pro 1, you can already see how vital this product is not only for MMA but for all combat sports. Find out more information by clicking on any of the banners on the Newsome MMA website or go to concussionpro1.com. Secondly, please check out the sponsor of Newsome MMA, which is CBDLife UK. I'm a great case study for CBD. In the MMA gambling world, people often talk about sweats and nerves as they're watching their fighter that they've bet on fight inside the cage. These feelings are absolutely real, and because of this, I vape CBD to help relax me on fight night. And if I'm honest, I didn't think it would make much of a difference at all, but it really does, and I'd honestly recommend it to anybody, especially the MMA gamblers that are sweating during events. You can access the offers from my sponsorship by clicking any of the banners on the Newsome MMA website, and you can also get 15% off your first order by using promo code Newsome MMA. And that's it from me, guys. Apologies about the croaky voice, apologies about how late the podcast is, but enjoy the fights on Saturday night. Thank you and goodbye.